Welcome to Winchester in the Know. I'm your host, Sergeant Dan Perenick of the Winchester Police Department. I'm your school resource officer and work closely to keep youth, adults, and seniors safe within our community each and every day. I am also the police officer's liaison to the Winchester Coalition for a Safer Community, and in partnership with WinCam, we will bring you a topic on each show that you should know about. Through sharing information with our community, we hope to prevent issues and problems that we are seeing and dealing with often. We also hope that our parents use this information to assist them with parenting their children at all times and save them hardships others have experienced in the past. We know all are very busy, but please take some time to view this short program and let us know your thoughts. Today's topic is about juvenile law and the diversion programs. We are joined today by Chief Peter MacDonnell and Lieutenant Dan O'Connell, two officers I've worked with for a number of years, and thanks to both of them, they support me in my role as the school resource officer and the work that I do within the schools with the kids and with the families. We thought it was important today to meet and talk a little bit about the new Juvenile Law Reform Act as of April of this past year, and it's new, it's evolving, just so that we bring folks in the community up to speed on it. We're going to talk a little bit about the Diversion Program with the Middlesex District Attorney's Office that we partner with. We're going to talk a little bit about a new program, Restorative Justice. And we're going to talk also social host liability, so parents and people within the community really get an understanding of what we do and how we try to save lives from looking at this law. So a number of topics this morning that we're going to work on. Chief, just wanted to touch base in reference to Reform Act. Can you talk a little bit about what the sense of and why the state's gone in that direction?
Sure. I think the Juvenile Justice Reform Act is, I think it's a very positive thing for the state of Massachusetts. It seeks to reduce the number of juveniles that are adjudicated delinquent, and it also seeks to decriminalize certain offenses, excuse me, as they pertain to juveniles. And it redefines what a juvenile is between the age of 12 and 18, under the age of 18, and certain offenses, misdemeanor offenses, first-time offenses that a juvenile might commit that have a penalty that is less than 6 months in the House of Correction would be decriminalized, whether and on that first offense, it would be either diverted once it gets to court, or it would be just outrightly dismissed. So I think those are all good things. I think the most positive aspect of the Juvenile Justice Reform Law is that you'll have less juveniles in the criminal justice system. You'll have less juveniles getting criminal records that could potentially follow them for the rest of their lives. So I think this is great for the state of Massachusetts, and it's something that the Winchester Police Department certainly is in favor of and is going to embrace.
And I think a lot of times, and we've been on the job quite some time, young people make mistakes. Mm-hmm. They make a poor decision. They're impulsive. Things happen, and it's great to see that the state's looking at this, moving the law from where we could charge from 7 years and older to now 12 years and
12
older,
years old, yeah.
Which makes sense. Young people under 12, if there's an issue or a problem, we as a police department will still deal with it, and we'll probably deal with it more as a parenting issue, mm-hmm. Maybe a mental health issue, or getting them some counseling support. Is
Yes.
that the direction that we would go?
Oh, absolutely. And this is something that the Winchester Police Department has been sensitive to for a very long time, even before this juvenile justice reform, became law. It's since I've been chief, it's something that's been very important to me to treat juveniles and, in fact, young adults, the least punitively that we can. So we've been utilizing, diversion programs and handling things as informally as we can for quite some time, especially as they pertain to juveniles. But to have this kind of enshrined in law now, where the offenses that carry a penalty less of 6 months in the House of Corrections, now on that first offense, that juvenile is not going to have to go through the criminal justice system, is not going to get a record. We can divert it, we can resort to restorative justice, and maybe correct that behavior, prevent that recidivism.
Sure.
And hopefully it will have a positive impact on not just that juvenile, but also the community as a whole.
Well, I know that we've been very fortunate over the last number of years that we've been doing this, and the response to Diversion Program and going in that direction. We don't see a repeat offender for the most part in these types of situations. Yeah. Lieutenant, you want to talk a little bit about the Diversion Program and your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I was going to bring up the fact that you said that we don't see a lot of repeat offenders, which is actually true. But one thing I wanted to mention too that the chief was talking about with the young juveniles and us kind of keeping everything kind of out of the system is the electronic footprint that just doesn't follow them for the rest of their lives. We don't fingerprint these young kids that come in. Try to keep them out of the system for as long as possible. They make mistakes and hopefully they learn from the mistakes, and we put them through kind of the same steps that they would go through with the court system, but yet keep that electronic footprint off of the computer systems, which is, I think, the biggest thing. Yeah.
And that's big in today's day and age, that could trail them for the rest of their life. Making a mistake now and then having a career, or a college career, or military, whatever, it could affect them long term. So this is a great initiative by the state. But like you said, we've been doing this for a while and taking the initiative. That's great. Diversion Program. Can you just talk a little bit about our partnership with the Middlesex District Attorney's Office?
Yeah, so the Diversion Program is something that the chief had worked on prior, and I took over when I took his spot. And it's great. It allows the patrolman on the street to do things very cut and dry, fairly, because they know, no one wants to go out there and like we were talking about, put something on a kid's record for a long period of time for the rest of his life. So they go forward just as if, we're not going to be doing arrest, but they'll put a summons forward, they'll do their report, contact the parents, the person will come in, we'll talk to the parents, and we would go through the normal steps that we would as we did years ago, and put the paperwork to the DA's office, and then the DA will then call in the juvenile with the parent, with myself, you sometimes, and they'll sit down and we'll go over some guidelines with them as to, hey, listen, this is what you did, this is what would happen normally, but we're gonna hold you accountable for some, maybe alcohol awareness type of training stuff, doing community service, and they sign a contract with the Winchester PD and with the DA's office. And then from there, as long as they go through all the steps and do everything that they're supposed to do, they fulfill that contract, and we keep the electronic footprint off of the database. It doesn't follow them for the rest of their lives.
There's no arraignment, there's no charge, which is a great thing.
Yeah, so diversion can be either pre or post arraignment. The way we've utilized it for at least the last 10 years has been pre-arraignment. So, and that's beneficial because, most importantly, it prevents that child, that juvenile, from having a criminal record. The district attorney's office in the last year has included young adults also in the diversion program. So now it includes young adults up to 25 years old. We can divert, and those young adults or juveniles that are eligible, it's a pretty wide, spectrum of offenses that we can divert, that we can handle informally, and certain offenses would not be eligible.
Right.
Offenses that include motor vehicle offenses, offenses that would include domestic violence, offenses that would include a weapon or an assault of somebody. Those might not be eligible, but the district attorney's office does reserve the right to consider any offense, but generally those offenses would not be considered. So most of the offenses that we deal with in Winchester for young adults and juveniles, we can consider it for diversion on a first offense.
On a first offense.
On a first offense.
Sure.
Yeah.
With the diversion program, what happens if they don't fulfill their contract and they violate it?
So if they don't fulfill the contract, or if they elect not to enter a diversion program, then it can be prosecuted, it can be arraigned, and it can be adjudicated through the court system, which would result in a criminal record for that young adult or juvenile.
So what I like is, Lieutenant, you spoke about consistency. The officers on the street now continue to do consistent, enforcement. do the report, do the paperwork, but now it gives us an opportunity now to divert it, work with the parents. And I think parenting and parents are a real important piece to this, and be able to make this a teachable moment and then be able to move on. So it's a great program. And I'm glad that we've been using it for quite some time and go from there. Let's turn to restorative justice.
Sure.
Chief, I know you've been doing a lot of work with Representative Day and a number of folks within the area, the chiefs of police in the area. Can you talk to us about the restorative justice program?
Sure. So recently, the Winchester Police Department joined Communities for Restorative Justice, which is a great program. They base themselves in Concord. There's about 20, I believe right now, about 20 communities that are part of C4RJ. And C4RJ can, again, just like diversion, it can be post-arraignment or it can be pre-arraignment. Again, the Winchester Police would want to utilize it as a pre-arraignment program. It also can be utilized for very minor offenses without a direct referral to C4RJ from the police department without necessarily involving the courts at all or the district attorney's office. So it can be utilized that way as well. But what restorative justice is an opportunity for an offender to take responsibility for whatever offense they committed and to enter into what they call a circle where the victim would be there as well. I should say also that the victim has to consent to the process. But it's about taking responsibility. It's about reducing recidivism. It's about avoiding a criminal record for the offender, whether that offender is a juvenile or a young adult. And again, just like the district attorney's diversion program, it involves the offender taking responsibility for their actions, entering into a circle, understanding what the damage was done, giving a victim an opportunity to sit with the offender and have a conversation about it. So I think it's a good thing. It is a good thing.
Well, going face to face with somebody in today's day and age with social media and our young people are connected all the time. It's great to bring them together. It's great to bring the victim and the offender together to be in certain circumstances and be able to go face to face to see that emotion, to hear that voice, and to know the effects that what their actions did. So it sounds like it's a great program for certain offenses.
It is a good program. It's a very good program.
Let's turn towards social host liability laws. Social host liability has been a concern of ours for a number of years. We talk about alcohol is still the #1 abused drug in the nation, and we still have issues here in our community and all around us. We're not isolated. Our young people choose sometimes to consume alcohol at a number of places, one being in their homes or in a summer home or a prom hotel room or whatever. But also there's some parents that still don't understand that it's very important for us to watch out for our young people and that, life's are on the line, injuries, both criminal charges and civil ramifications that could go on for years and years.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about why we use the social host law here in the town.
So essentially, social host liability means that it is against the law in Massachusetts for anybody under the age of 21 to be in possession of alcohol. And it's also against the law to procure alcohol or provide alcohol to somebody that's under 21 years of age. So, what we see in Winchester, and quite frankly that we've seen for years here, is underage parties at homes in Winchester, most often when parents aren't there, but quite often when parents are there, we've had to deal with that. And, parents should know that they can be held both criminally and civilly responsible for procuring alcohol for people under the age of 21 in their home or on any property that they're in control of. So the criminal ramifications can be up to a $2,000 fine, as well as time in the House of Corrections. But more is the potential civil ramifications of providing alcohol to people under the age of 21. If someone gets injured or someone leaves your house and gets injured, there's potential, civil liability, which could result in, the homeowner, the person in control of that place, being responsible for it. And quite often, if there's a criminal act involved, your liability insurance, your home liability insurance will not cover you.
That's right.
And you'll be on the hook for it. So I think it's really, really important for parents to take the time to have conversations with your kids. Take the time to talk to your kids about decisions that they make when they're outside of your home. And naturally, kids when they're young, they're going to make decisions sometimes which aren't in their best interest. And parents need to have conversations with their kids about those decisions. And parents also need to make themselves available. You need to, come up with some kind of a plan with your kids where if your child goes somewhere and is at a party and there's underage drinking, talk to your son or your daughter about making good decisions. Make your son or your daughter feel comfortable, texting you or calling you, and make yourself available to go pick up your son or your daughter, to kind of get them out of that situation, so that they don't find themselves in a situation where A, the law's being broken. Secondly, people can get hurt, and thirdly, it's they need to be out of that situation.
Not only do we hold adults accountable, and over the years we have held some adults accountable in the community, but also young people. If they're home alone and they allow this to happen, we've also held young people, and that's where the diversion program has helped us before making that mistake and moving forward. But young people can be held accountable for this law also.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so we want to make sure that parents and kids have that conversation. Parents go out for dinner. They leave for several hours. It's real important to make sure that the young people know how to get a hold of their parents or a neighbor or a family member. It's important to do that. We talk about it a lot in the school setting with the students, saying that if you find yourself home alone and you have a couple of friends over to have pizza and watch a movie or play video games or whatever, next thing you know, with social media, they get overrun by a group of other young people with alcohol or other drugs, to call the parent right away, call a neighbor right away, or call us right away so that we can go up there and take care of it early on. But if we don't get the call until later and the home's destroyed and there's a lot of alcohol and people under the influence and all the rest of it, we need to act. And I know we use the diversion program to help in those circumstances, but we want to make sure that people realize that we're here to prevent people from getting hurt, injured, or charged with crime.
Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely. Most often when we've had those situations where there's been an underage drinking party, the person that's been in control of that premises has been diverted. We've diverted it to prevent that person from getting a criminal record. But the risk there, as I said earlier, is not just potential criminal penalties, but also the civil issues that might arise from somebody getting hurt.
And we know, being in this field, that a civil ramification could cost millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
And it could take years to resolve. And people don't think about that when they're making decisions for prom parties, graduation parties, thinking that we're doing the right thing and maybe taking keys and doing those types of things. But in our careers, we've seen it many times. We've read about it. We've seen it at court, where a spare key or somebody walks away or they go into the pool or into the lake in the neighborhood, and now you're dealing with severe injury or death and then civil criminal ramifications. So being able to spend some time and talk about this is really important from the police department, but also from parents and the community. If folks see people dropping off alcohol in a wooded area, if they're aware that there's a situation going on where there's a home that maybe continues to get lots of young people or lots of activity, what should people do?
Make a phone call. Call us at 781-729-1212 and report what your observations are to the dispatcher, and we'll send a patrol officer to come look into it and determine if there is an underage drinking party going on, and we'll try and stop it right at that time rather than allowing it to become out of control.
And prevention is a huge piece to what we do, and we need the community's help to do that. and hopefully prevent a tragedy from happening. We've seen in our careers a lot of tragedies which are unfortunate that could be prevented.
And like the chief said about calling in at the time that it happens, I think this is a problem that we have with our tip line. We have a lot of people that will see something happen. They don't necessarily want to call the police department, so they'll, text the tip line, and a lot of times it's not monitored 24/7. So if you do see something happening, tip line's great for a lot of different things, but not for something where you need immediate police services.
Yeah.
And our tip line can be obtained through the 01890 app, which you'll hear about at the end of the program, which is real important because the 01890 app has a lot of services on the app, one being our text tip line. And again, it's for ongoing issues within the community to text us that we can deal with during the regular business hours. But please, we ask everybody, as the chief said, to call 781-729-1212 and speak to a dispatcher or ask to speak to the officer in charge and explain what's going on. And we'll go up and we'll deal with it at the time so that we can prevent some issues, which is real important. Ongoing issues that go on in neighborhoods, let us know, send us a tip. We'll look into it and hopefully resolve an issue. Transitioning to the Good Samaritan Law. We saw, and we still have an issue with the opiate crisis within our nation, within our state. With that opiate crisis, the Good Samaritan Law was enacted to help, but now with the new Criminal Justice Juvenile Reform Act, it also takes us to work with young people with alcohol issues. Can we talk about that for a couple of minutes and how important it is for people to understand picking the phone up and calling?
Yeah. So the Good Samaritan Law now covers alcohol as well as other controlled substances. And it makes immune a person who reports to the police someone that is under the influence of alcohol or drugs and needs medical attention. So that person won't be charged by us for being present at a place where there is consumption of alcohol or drugs. It does not include immunity to things like trafficking and distribution of drugs, but for simple possession, you are immune from prosecution.
And it's important that our young people understand not to leave somebody that's under the influence or unconscious, to pick up the phone, call 911, and understand that when we respond, which is the right thing to do, we respond, we'll get them medical help, we'll assist them, and we'll deal with it appropriately, and that person won't be charged with a crime except under certain circumstances. But right now, if it's somebody that made a mistake, they drank too much, please don't leave them alone. Get them help, pick up the phone and call, and let us know. As we're starting to close the program, I want to talk about the relationship that we have with the Middlesex District Attorney's Office and our school department around the memorandum of understanding that we've had in effect for a number of years through the DA's office. Can we talk a little bit about the whole idea of sharing information and working together? I know that we do the criminal justice meetings once a month, once every 6 weeks to share information, make sure that we're helping. Lieutenant, you want to talk a little bit about the CBJ meetings and that program?
Yeah, I mean, the CBGA meetings, I haven't been to too many myself. I know that the chief knows a little bit more than I do. But basically what it is the detectives, we usually have a few of them go out once a month to meet up with the district attorney's office and the teachers from the different schools, whether it's the high school, the middle school, and the VOC over in Wakefield. So they'll sit down, they'll try to identify some students that might need some resources, some help, talk about it, share information, what's been going on over in Wakefield, what's been going on over in Winchester. So it's worked out well so far.
And I know I take part in a lot of those meetings, and it's been very positive in working with young people, working with the schools, being able to share certain information. And it's all confidential, and it stays so that we can support folks.
Yeah. So the memorandum of understanding between the police department, the district attorney's office, and the school department is all about information sharing. It's about having an agreement on how the SRO, the school resource officer, what his role is in the school, what his training is required to be, what his involvement is with students. And it's all part, as I said, of the Criminal Justice Reform Bill. And it's a good memorandum of understanding. It requires certain information to be shared between the district attorney's office, the school, and the police department. And again, just like the Criminal Justice Reform Bill, it seeks to reduce the amount of involvement of juveniles with the court system and reduce the amount of juveniles getting criminal records. So I think the memorandum of understanding it's a good thing, and I think it's just going to enhance our relationship with the school and with the DA's office.
Oh, that's terrific. I wish to thank our guests today, Chief Peter MacDonnell and Lieutenant Dan O'Connell, for sharing this important information with the community. Please let others know in the community about this program and encourage them to view it on demand at wincam.org. If you would like more information about this program or any others within the series, please contact us at winchestercoalition@gmail.com. Lastly, we encourage you to download our Winchester Coalition app 01890, which also contains our text tip line. On behalf of the Winchester Coalition for a Safer Community in WinCam, I thank you for taking the time to join us on Winchester in the Know.